Mike Mahardy.
Hi.
Welcome.
I have so many questions for you about Star Wars.
Jedi : Fallen Order.
Yes.
I've been writing that a lot, and it finally is habit.
Tell me about the Fallen Order and the colon.
The game's fun. It's more than I expected, which, just because it was a Star Wars game that's kind of got that ancestry of games, has a very rocky history. Obviously,
Up and down.
Yeah.
This is Respawn's latest attempt.
Third-person action game.
Respawn Entertainment's second release of the year. First time really getting away from the Titanfall universe, if you want, like, Apex.
And for that matter, first-person shooters, really.
Yeah, definitely. Which is kind of a lot of why I like that game. Just to set the premise, it's set 4 years after Order 66, when most of the Jedi were eliminated. You're a Jedi in hiding named Cal Kestis.
It's a Star Wars name.
When did I'm serious? A serious question here from not so much Star Wars fan. When in the movies does that happen? I know that's like
Episode 3 of Revenge of the Sith. This is 4 years after the end of Revenge of the Sith, so it takes place between Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One, technically.
And Rogue One and Sith are before A New Hope.
Yes. Rogue One is directly before it.
It's Episode 3, and then Jedi Fallen Order, and then Rogue One, then New Hope.
Got
and
it.
Solo's probably in there somewhere, but no one cares.
Oh, I never saw that.
No one cares.
All right. I liked it better than Rogue One.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, Rogue One didn't do too much
Rogue
for
One
me.
is not very good, I don't think.
I don't like it that much either.
It's fine.
I like it.
It's a watchable movie, but it's not very good.
They're
The
all
Mandalorian.
Tell me about this video game.
Jedi Fallen Order. I like this game a lot. I've talked to Brad a little bit about it, and I told you yesterday, I do think it needed, I'm not exaggerating, another 6 months. I'm wondering if they had to rush out the game to meet Rise of Skywalker before December. I'm
Almost
not sure.
assuredly. Almost assuredly.
And
Do you think it's a little undercooked?
yes.
Not in a way that, like, hey, a big old day one patch is going to fix.
So there has been one patch since I got the game, and as of now, it came out, last night? There was one patch, and it seems to have smoothed things out. I played on Xbox, and load times were fine on Xbox. Yeah, load times were fine on Xbox, but a lot of times just whole parts of the world would either, like, the floor wouldn't load in, and then I would jump assuming the floor was there, but then I would fall, and I would have to restart the game because I was falling endlessly. The patch did seem to rectify some of those, and the patch was about, I think it was like 300 megabytes.
Well, that's how much floors are.
It's very true. It's really hard to judge exactly how widespread a patch is by its size.
Because I didn't get, like, patch notes, but also in addition, PlayStation's load PlayStation performs better, but the load times are like Bloodborne launch level.
What?
One of my coworker Jordan counted once, timed it was 45 seconds after dying. And
After
dying,
not initial load.
I don't know about those, but yeah, even those, like Pete Brown was saying, those are very long too on PS4. Yeah. So PS4 has the opposite problem. I don't know if there's a patch. Brad was saying he hasn't gotten a PS4 patch. I don't believe.
Maybe there's floors on the PS4.
Probably, yeah.
So
I have it for PC, but I haven't loaded it up.
And it just looks on Xbox, at least, even on the X, it just looks kind of rough around the edges. A lot of it. Frame rate sort of slowed down. Sometimes, again, textures. I would be climbing up these walls that are supposed to look like vines, and the texture just wouldn't load in. So it looked like I was climbing mud.
Oh boy.
But like design wise, and assuming they fixed, and this wasn't game breaking. Well, actually, it was, but I had to reload it. But seems in better shape now. I don't know if they're gonna have a day one patch. I know we reached out to them. I don't know if we've heard back personally.
So these are mostly, when you say needs more time in the oven, for technical issues.
Yes.
Okay, so how about the actual gameplay and design?
The game is very good. I really enjoyed it, and it is.
Did you finish it?
Yep. I finished it yesterday. And it's a substantial game, too. It was like, I think, 17, 18 hours it took me for that kind of. It's very, obviously, it's more of a Metroidvania. You can go between 5 planets, 4 or 5, but it's kind of smoke and mirrors. There is an order to what you're supposed to do, but technically you can go explore this until you hit a soft gate, until you get this ability, like a double jump or whatever. But
have you guys been like knocked in the head or something? Or you said you were a Jedi in training?
No, you were a Jedi. And a lot of this is you find out later in the story, but basically you were training under this name, this master called Jero Katal Jero Katal, and then he was your master, and so you have his lightsaber at the beginning.
But you're learning new abilities as you go.
Yeah. Okay. You're like remembering them.
That's exactly what I was getting at. Okay.
Yeah. You are remembering them and tapping back into the Force because story-wise you've been hiding it because these things, they brought back a few enemies from the Empire that were in comics, which I don't read, the Inquisitors, which are charged with chasing down the last few Jedi that survived the Purge. But yeah, you are gaining abilities to traverse these levels more often, and it feels very God of War 2018-ish in that regard because you go to Nilfheim or all these other realms. It's kind of like that. You're going to different planets getting new abilities, getting past these item gates. But the combat they've shown is much more deliberate, and people have been comparing it to Dark Souls, and I know that's kind of a cliche, but this game, you go to these meditation points, which are pretty much bonfires. You rest, you get your health stim packs back. There's a limited number, and you can increase that number. I have 9 now.
Like 9 charges?
Yep,
in the
you
thing?
start, your droid BD1, who's a very cute character, he throws you. You flick, you do a little finger flip.
That's that batteries not included looking thing that, that they showed in the trailers.
He hangs on your shoulder, and he throws you the stim packs, and you jab yourself in the neck. But also, resting at those bonfire things, meditation points, respawns the enemies that you killed.
So it's just straight up Dark
It
Souls.
is straight up Dark Souls.
You get your stim packs back, respawns the enemies.
And then the dude who killed you has your experience. He's glowing yellow, but you don't have to kill him. You just have to land a hit.
Just like Star Wars.
Because
That's
also,
so interesting.
also like Sekiro, there is a block meter that you can drain, and you also have one. So once you drain that, they get stunned. So it's like a combination. It's like vanilla elements of Sekiro mixed with Soulsborne games.
So you can't just sit there and block indefinitely because they'll break.
Not
your
indefinitely,
block.
no. And parrying is big. The difficulties dictate how much of a window you have to parry.
Okay.
So I played on normal, so it was a fairly generous parry. I will say the combat was not as precise sometimes as I think it wanted to be. The dodges are very generous. It's the same thing. You get a quick evade or an actual roll away to like reposition yourself. But sometimes when I was following through with attacks, the enemy, it was kind of unclear what attack was going to actually interrupt an enemy's attack or what wasn't. You get like heavy and light attacks. But all in all, the combat was, it fits really well with being a somewhat, like not a Jedi Master, if you felt sort of vulnerable but still powerful.
Does it feel like weighty, or like, so when I think like Jedi lightsaber combat, it's very fast and flipping around and everything, but when I think of Dark Souls and like Bloodborne, it's very weighty and deliberate?
I would say it's closer to Bloodborne, but there is a nice weight to it. It's not just like Force Unleashed, just complete air.
Dynasty Warriors.
Yes, it also, it's the first time, I think, maybe not it's the best a lightsaber has felt. You go up to a regular stormtrooper, it's one hit, you cut him in half.
Do you actually cut them in half?
You cut things in half. I don't know if they don't show people get cut in half, but you cut like droids in half. But you
stormtroopers are people.
I know, but you don't. I don't think.
Well, that's getting into whole our clones people thing, and that's a whole deal.
So
wait, all stormtroopers are clones?
Jango Fett.
Well, no,
At
not
first.
all of them, but then they
in the early goings,
and then they started recruiting.
Yeah, the clone,
the original clone army were the
Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Jango Fett's Boba's dad.
Again, let me just throw it out there that maybe I don't know Star Wars that well. But you're telling me the dude in the new ones, the guy who goes,
no, that's
way
they were
later.
recruited because there was the special program, right? Those stormtroopers, they wanted like, that's why he gets mad at what's the Phantom?
Phasma.
Doesn't she get yelled at? Like,
Brianna,
you wanted this program for like,
Brienne of Tarth.
They're like brainwashed, and then Finn is force sensitive, so he starts like feeling again. Outside of it.
Some of that could be wrong. Please don't send in corrections.
Yeah, please do not ever give us Star Wars corrections.
I think we did a pretty good job on that.
Spock freed the stormtroopers, and when
and then the last Starfighter was there.
Yeah, and then he hit the Death Blossom, and that's how they blew up the Death
and
Star.
Jeff Bridges and Tron.
Got it.
So, Mike, is the structure of this game bonfire, creep forward, bonfire, creep forward, bonfire, creep forward, big boss, get new ability?
Shortcuts are also a huge thing. You literally will get a thing pop up on the screen say shortcut unlocked. Like you cut a rope, like
to go back to the bonfire,
to get back toward a meditation point, or to get back toward like the central first area you're at on a planet, whether it be some landing pad or some valley you landed in with the Mantis, your ship.
Are there fog gates?
No.
Okay, so when you go into a boss arena, does it slow motion with a guy over big thing over his shoulder, and then he just kind of stumbles in? You get a big health bar.
There are not the bosses is where it probably deviates from Souls the most, because there are these mini bosses which are optional, and you get when you kill them, you get a skill point, and the skill points are the things you can lose. It's not where you spend points on like attributes. You have a skill tree.
Okay.
So in that way, it's not as much of a risk reward, because if you do die, you're like, I lost a skill point. I didn't lose like 1,300 midichlorians or whatever.
But can you fight that?
Wait, did they actually say the word midichlorians?
No. Sorry.
I wanted to know if they were bringing that in.
But if you
clarify, that was a joke on my part.
But if you get a skill point from an optional mid boss, can you fight that mid boss again? If you
no,
lost
he's
it?
gone. They're
so
gone.
Are they limited? Are there a limited number of skill points?
Yeah, because there's a skill tree with I think the most I've spent on one skill is 3 points.
So you can lose them permanently from the game?
Yeah, but there's enough where it seems pretty generous. I think I ended the game without like 4 of the skills, and I died a few times.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds a little maybe rough on the player if you can not get those skill points back. As somebody who wants to fill out a whole tree.
So it's still pretty generous if you respawn the enemies around you at the meditation point. If you wanted to grind, you probably could. Like
Wait, you can get skill points from them?
Yeah. Oh, they boss will automatically give you 1 full skill point. The smaller enemies will contribute to the meter. Once you fill up the meter, that's 1. Yeah,
sorry. I thought that's the only way to get
No. So the bosses are automatically 1 skill point.
Okay.
Like a full meter.
Like automatic, like, hey, get rid of
right.
level up. Gotcha.
And you're also getting, like, you get 3 of these things and it upgrades your health permanently. Or there's a skill that makes your health stim packs do more. But overall, the level design I really enjoyed. I think the Metroidvania aspects worked out really well. Again, some of it's smoke and mirrors. Like, you can't just go anywhere at first, but the backtracking is rewarding. There's a few really cool like gameplay spoiler things that you might not expect in this game, which I really enjoyed, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not. And surprisingly, the story at first was very, go here, do this, find this ancient thing that's going to help us, hopefully. But later on the story, it actually starts getting into some... I liked the game enough without caring about the story, but in the last like 4 or 5 hours, I was actively like, oh, this is good.
You stopped the Empire. And that's
exactly
you kill Darth Vader.
It's like a retcon. There's like
they can't make Star Wars anymore.
The bad trilogy never happens. Yeah. You still have Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, so you're set.
Well, it explains why Darth Vader looks different when he takes the helmet off, because you actually kill him and become Darth Vader. And
can't believe they just packed that into the game like that.
I mean, this is the game to play, let me tell you. So aside from the technical problems this game have,
which sounds significant.
As of you actually really liked it.
Yes. It again, I don't know what that patch did, but I enjoy the game design wise enough that I played a lot of it. This game and like Outer Worlds, I would say, and maybe Fire Emblem are the games this year where I had no problem binging. It's cool because despite it being such a left turn for Respawn in so many ways, like obviously like they're kind of in the big leagues now. If they weren't before, they're working with Disney, Star Wars. I don't know what happens behind the scenes. It can't be easy to work with them and like approve all this stuff and make
everything
it canon.
I've always heard about making these movie games is easy peasy.
Yeah, and this is canon too. So like,
it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
I imagine that must be super difficult, and they're also again just shifting from first to third person. When people first said that, they're like, that's kind of a big deal for Respawn. Not only just because Titanfall 1, 2, and Apex Legends, but Zampella and everybody that worked they made no qualms about saying, hey, this is a shooter studio in 2012. And for good reason, they made some great games before that. But despite all of that, it is really cool to see that Respawn DNA even here, namely in the movement. Platforming's big in this game. There are a lot of platforming environmental puzzles. They don't always work well, to the point where I got real frustrated sometimes. I can get to that, but if you're a fan of Respawn, there is some stuff here that will like bring you in if you don't happen to be a Star Wars or third person fan.
This is the one they brought Stig in for, right? Like he was not working on the other games.
I believe so, because I know he did God of War 3.
Yeah.
And again, you could see that DNA there as well. So it's cool to see that. I also like wall running's there, like the way you actually maneuver, and a lot of the puzzles. There's some great puzzles in this game too. On par with more involved in God of War, I would say 2018, but not as involved as something. I'm trying to think of like something with not like a Zelda, but some of them are really like in-depth puzzles to the point where my coworkers and I were messaging each other. Did you figure this out? Not in a frustrating way, but in a good, challenging way. And BD, if you get too stuck, BD, you could press a button and he'll like beep, and you'll be like, oh, you're right, this does do that. It won't tell you the answers, but it'll give you some nice hints.
Okay.
I kind of want to play this.
Yeah,
I want to play the best version of this game.
Yes.
Yeah. I would
whatever
say,
that is.
I also, speaking of platforming, I wasn't even joking yesterday when I told you there are slides in this game that frustrated me more. Not really more than like a Donkey Kong 64 slide, but they pissed me off. It's one of those things, it's kind of like a trope now, where you step onto a slippery, muddy slope, and all of a sudden you're like flying down it and you have to like dodge things and jump. Yeah. The dodging is very clunky, but there's parts where you have to jump, and it's that platforming thing where there's that small window after you leave a ledge where you can still jump, and you need to nail that perfectly to cross a gap.
It's the Donkey Kong Country situation. When you do the cartwhol over a thing, and you can jump afterwards.
Part too, yeah.
And it gets... maybe I just sucked at these sections. That's completely possible. Thank you. And maybe I just really biffed it every time, but That's the most frustrated I've gotten with a game in a while. And that I don't think that had anything to do with the technical aspects. It's just, man, this jump needs to be perfect.
Well, if the frame rate was the frame rate hitchy there?
On slides, yes.
Okay, because if the
on
frame
Xbox.
rate is hitchy, I could see the button press.
Yes.
So when you ran across all this junk that you ran into, did you reach out to these guys and you were like, hey,
we did at
you guys got floors?
GameSpot. We asked about a day one patch. I don't believe we've heard back yet. I mainly was going through the people that were already talking to EA.
Got it.
I would venture to guess they know.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and they are
if
sweating it.
I would also go so far as to
just want to
say
hear their answer.
Embargo's
if there was a day one patch, you would have heard something by now. If there's a patch in the works that they don't have a date for yet, they're not going to tell you.
And what embargo is the night of release on digital stores.
When's that? Isn't that today?
As of
this recording, it was midnight
15th?
Eastern. It's midnight tonight as we're talking.
Yeah, it's Thursday
Eastern.
night.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
All in all, design wise, I like this game a lot. I also like. I have a video going up Sunday. If I can plug something, it's just about how it Respawn's had a great year. This game's problems notwithstanding, it is very encouraging to see them step outside that shooter bubble and the one that they have slowly been mastering, if not already mastered. But I really do like that they took such a sharp turn with this back in 2016 when they announced they were working on it, and then Vince in the audience said, "Yeah, it's called Jedi Fallen Order.
It's gonna be good.
Like, okay,
Get the camera off,
sweet." But running with the theory that they got it out before the movie in December, I strongly think they will be continuing to work on this game to polish it because it does need polish.
Does it have any kind of multiplayer?
No, and also people. It might be worth pointing out that you can customize your lightsaber, like different hilts, and there are you will get parts of famous lightsabers that you can make yours look like. That's all I'll say. But also, you can you get new ponchos. He's got a cool look. He's got Luke's Empire Strikes Back Bespin jumpsuit, but then on top of that, it's a poncho that changes colors, and you can get new colors for BD1. That's all nice, but unless they introduce it afterwards, there are absolutely no microtransactions in this game, which I think people were worried about because they showed the lightsaber customization. People were like, "Oh, it's EA," but there's nothing.
I mean, I think people are still, after Battlefront 2, very wary of that.
They made especially the Disney, and I'm sure with Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, they mentioned EA.
No, the microtransaction shit in Battlefront.
Yeah. But man, I like this game a lot. It caught me off guard in a lot of ways because it felt like they were trying so many different things. They were borrowing Soulsborne level design and progression. They were borrowing Metroidvania backtracking and just kind of overall world design. They were going for this more deliberate combat over something like The Force Unleashed or even like Jedi Outcast, which are both pretty, again, flighty feels as opposed to this. But overall, I like this game a lot.
Brad's been playing it. He has a quick look. It should be up by now. If not, it should be up soon. Also, I believe he's working on a review for it. So hopefully up or forthcoming.
Yeah, personally, I would say if you're chomping at the bit to play a new Star Wars game, this is a great Star Wars game. If you are interested in it, I would say maybe wait a little bit, see if they fix it up.
Smooth it out.
Yeah. Because
that's a bummer.
Because design-wise, there's a lot to really like with this game.
Just technical.
Yeah, and it's substantial. Like I said, if you're interested in length, it was 15 to 20 hours. But it never felt like it was. It ended when it needed to. It kept momentum going. It was.
Well, if it ran at 60, it'd probably only be 10.
Exactly.
Ba boom, ba boom. Watch out! I'm very excited for this. I hope they can get all polished up. Yep.